Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a triumphant Tuesday so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we're going to be going over a number of things within this video. We're really going to be diving into some of the main news headlines at the moment surrounding the cryptocurrency space and also surrounding markets generally. One of the big questions that I think a lot of people are asking right now is, are we in or going into a recession? And the reason for this is typically, where we currently are in terms of commodity prices, where we currently are on a number of metrics used to weigh up the commodity, we're kind of hovering dangerously close or already in recession territory. And the really interesting thing that I think, we've got to try and work out as crypto people is, how does the cryptocurrency market fare during this time period? And we've certainly seen a correlation with Bitcoin and some of your risky assets. The Nasdaq is now officially in a bear market. Nasdaq 100 closes in a bear market for the first time since March 2020. So a bear market in the traditional world is just 20% down, and then that's what it's being called. So it's a very interesting time to be alive. Monetary policy is changing as we know it. In fact, into the future, I think the very definition of money is going to change, as it has done throughout history. Money is really just a thought experiment. It was Adam Smith that said that, one of the fathers of sort of modern economics. So we're going to do a little bit of talking and speculating about that. So we still know where Bitcoin is currently. We're sort of range bound right now. And ultimately, we're at the wrong side of that range. So given everything that's taking place, there is still the possibility for more downside. But again, one thing that I always remind you guys of is the fact that crypto, in terms of a technology, is very early. And there's going to be a lot of value that gets rolled up into it as the space sees more adoption. And we've never been so adopted, and we've never been in such a good position to get adopted. So there is always a bullish case for crypto and Bitcoin, in my opinion. But to get to that destination of adoption, there's going to be ups and downs. And if you look at Bitcoin's history, it really does reflect that. But ultimately, the overall trend is up. This is a macro bull market, ladies and gentlemen. It's always important to remember that. So essentially, we've got the Federal Reserve meeting the FOMC, which is where they will give clarity on what they're going to do in regards to interest rates. Now, I and many people are expecting a 25 basis point Fed fund rate hike. This, I think, is definitely already priced into markets. Now, there is still the possibility that they'll do a 50 basis point rate hike, but I don't necessarily think that that'll be the case. The Fed have to up interest rates at this point, and hear me out here. Yes, it's going to be further damaging to an economy that is already struggling given commodity prices at the moment. We look at your main stock exchanges. This is the Hang Seng Index, which is your sort of Hong Kong stock exchange. It's doing absolutely terribly. And in fact, this is the worst. This is a worse crash than sort of March 2020. But there are geopolitical reasons for this. Of course, the DAX isn't looking too great. The S&P and, of course, the Nasdaq. So the Fed are going to have to up interest rates, even though, yes, it may hurt the economy even more. But the reason they're going to have to up interest rates is so that they can undo it later on, because they've got nowhere to go from where they currently are. You're going to go negative and then really bring on the pain for the masses in terms of inflation. Inflation is sort of the number one enemy at the moment. And it's what people are really, feeling. And I'll see if I've got the tweet, actually. I found this rather a funny tweet. In fact, it's from Cameron Winklevoss, one of the Winklevoss twins, the real founders of Facebook. No, I'm joking. I don't know. It's an interesting story behind Facebook and these guys and Zuck. So 2021, September, 5.4% inflation, transitory on October, 6.2% transitory, November, 6.8%. Greedy corporations, December, 7% supply chain bottlenecks. January, 7.5% supply chain bottlenecks. And now they're basically blaming oil prices. What will experts blame next? They know, there's various theories on money and what causes inflation. I am really of the, I favour the Austrian kind of thinking in regards to finance, the Austrian kind of economist. But, the velocity of money is really what drives inflation. Certainly at the moment, there is a supply chain issue. And this is really fueling on top of all the QE and velocity of money that they added to the system, these rising prices. And there's no sort of sign of that slowing down anytime soon. So we're looking to keep running hotter for inflation. This is another tweet from Lynn Alden. Lynn Alden's absolutely amazing. Probably one of my favorite commentators on global economics, on crypto, and a number of other things. You know, she really puts things into perspective. This is her talking about the official consumer price index inflation and how it came out at 7.9%, and how she's actually expecting this to continue while interest rates are still at zero. So they are absolutely going to up interest rates. How does crypto fare in that? I would very much argue that the interest rate hike that we're going to get now is already being priced into markets. And markets are, given it's really the uncertainty that's stunting markets and keeping them where they are currently. You know that market sentiment's bad when everyone's looking for Joe Biden to save the crypto space with his executive order. It's almost counterintuitive, you know, permissionless system that we now need permission to use. But I'm getting a little bit off topic there. But it's very interesting what's going on with that executive order. And that actually could be one of the catapulting factors. We're seeing, and I remind you guys of this daily, the amount of big corporations, the amount of big players within the financial realm are now jumping over to the crypto ship. You know, it's quite telling in that respect. And I think these guys are doing it knowing what's going to come in terms of regulation and how the US, in my opinion, is more likely to actually move forward with and embrace crypto and use it, whether constrict it otherwise, than they are to just outright ban it and kill off an entire industry. You know, we've heard comments from a number of people that suggest that. So this is Lynn talking about the interest rates. The comparison between 2020 to the 1940s in this sense could be more clear. And she's showing you essentially, you know, that we're in a different kind of sprint here. 1970s is what Jerome Powell has said he's kind of aiming for in terms of a undamaging landing, a smooth landing. I don't think there is going to be a smooth landing, unfortunately. Inflation adjusted short-term interest rates at about 7.8% currently are the lowest they have been since 1940s, and specifically since the end of the period 1951. Even as someone who has been on a rather inflationary camp for a few years, the war in Ukraine is likely to push inflation even higher than the pre-war base case has been. You know, so she's essentially saying that this is going to continue. Russia is a key energy, fertilizer, and food exporter, but less understood how important it is to the EV grade nickel. Even EVs and energy shortages or storage technologies are threatened by the commodity sanctions of global markets. So it's going to be very interesting. And I don't think we've seen it play out. I don't think we've seen the worst of it yet. But how does crypto hold on in this? How is crypto going to hold on? Bitcoin was really created to hedge inflation as an alternative system of value away from your fiat systems, you know, that was essentially self-governing, self-executing, and fixed. You know, we know the rules with Bitcoin. We know that there's a set amount of supply that decreases every 4 years, and that you know, there's only ever going to be a fixed amount. So there is the argument that we do see that continuation. Ultimately, I think we're going to see the continuation, but sooner than what we're potentially expecting. The market is extremely bearish. Sentiment is bad at the moment, and that is quite often the breeding ground for the opposite to kind of happen, and that's sometimes very trader driven, with people getting too comfortable short in this market where we're currently at. So that is really the big question at the moment. Over time, the three big factors that tend to drive the US economy into a recession are an inverted yield curve, some kind of commodity price shock, and Fed tightening. We've got all three of those present today, guys. So it's certainly interesting, but we will keep you up to date with it as things go by. Yes, we are a crypto channel, but what's taking place on a kind of macroeconomic sense is absolutely important to understand. Otherwise, you won't have a clue really what's taking place right now. So this is long-term hodlers accumulation ratio. You know, we can see where we're at. Where we're at currently, when we've made these kind of highs, it's been sort of low points for the market, and you've typically seen accumulation come off the back end of that. We also know, in one of our favorite charts, a lot of on-chain metrics does not suggest that we're in a bear market, or suggests that we're in the bottom of a bear market. It's probably the better way to put it, and that we're not at a kind of top for a cycle, that we're typically at a very low point before we see that continuation. Short-term Bitcoin buyers, transaction to long-term holders, Glassnode. So you've got the hodlers keep growing within this market. It's certainly something to look at. Also, the illiquid supply continues to grow, and we actually see a lot of Bitcoin leaving exchanges, but it's very low volume markets at the moment. And ultimately, the trend for Bitcoin and crypto is very clear currently. We're in a downtrend, but, you know, it's on very low volume. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get a sort of volume spike. We did say in yesterday's video that we didn't really like this kind of selling because it's organized. This is not, which typically will set you up to the other side. That was panicked, basically. This is people strategically exiting at this point. And it's to do with the fact that there's so much uncertainty in the world, and also we've got this kind of looming recession potentially, not just for the US, other countries, the euro, and people within the eurozone, I think, are going to get hit very hard. Certainly, I'll look at the DAX, which is the German stock exchange. You know, I could see further continuation for this, and it's already sold off significantly. You've also got the S&P here, and we're officially in a bear market for the NASDAQ. So all very positive, but ultimately, again, back to that point that I raised at the start of the video, remember, you are a part of a technological revolution, and a lot of value will get swept up within this kind of space, within this asset class that is really only really recently being birthed. So that's really all I have for you in this video, guys. It was just another short and sweet update, letting you guys know everything that's going on. Like I say, we've got potentially huge and game-changing regulatory clarity coming out from the US. This goes in crypto's favor. I mean, crypto's straight up to $10 trillion in terms of market cap. I really do believe that. And the vice versa to that is that potentially it might not be. But one thing that we do know is that, is Joe really about to, you know, or is his administration about to really come out and ban crypto when we know, or impact it in a negative way when we know just how many people within the US hold it? And the fact that he's potentially not that popular within the polls already, you know, the midterms coming up and everything. So it's all very interesting. There's lots of factors at play here, and it's important you guys remember that. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. If you've enjoyed this content, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.